You know, there's different kinds of painkillers, right? So there's things called NSAIDs. So like aspirin is an NSAID, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Tylenol is a acetaminophen. It's a different kind of painkiller. But the things that are prescribed are opioid receptor agonists. Okay, so like oxycodone is an opioid receptor agonist, and there's a few different kinds of opioid receptors, and these things bind to what's called the mu receptor, and that's what relieves the pain, because those receptors sit all through the nervous system pain reception systems, right? So there's lots of places in the nervous system where pain is perceived, and those receptors are there. So those receptors, of course, aren't there because somebody grew poppies to make heroin, right? Mm-hmm. They're there because we have endogenous opioids, right? So like endorphins and enkephalins and dynorphins are endogenous. They're within us. So we have receptors for our own opioids, but oxycodone takes advantage of that, and it's more powerful than the endogenous, and it binds to it and it relieves pain, okay? But the other thing that opioids do is they cause euphoria, which is a feeling of, a pleasant feeling of relaxation or a high, right? Usually, I have to say this, if somebody's prescribed opioids in the hospital, it is not likely that they're going to become addicted, okay? They come out of the hospital, they're in a different environment, and they don't go looking for opioids to replace the ones they were given in the hospital. But sometimes with the prescriptions for the folks who aren't in the hospital, they're like just outpatients and they keep going back to the doctor and getting them refilled. Those can become addictive. And so then after a while, a few things can happen. The person wants to keep taking them because they're addicted, and either the physician says enough, right? Realizing that, this has gotten into trouble territory. Or somehow or other the person realizes that you can buy heroin much more cheaply. So if they get cut off by the doctor, they may go and buy heroin because they're still addicted. Or if they realize that they can buy heroin and not have to deal with a prescription anymore, they may do that. And so that's a big part of what the crisis that we're in right now is people are turning to heroin to replace something that was prescribed because it acts the same way. Heroin's a mu opioid receptor agonist, right? The bigger problem comes because there are drugs that are much more potent than heroin that are also opioid agonists. So like fentanyl, it's 100 times more potent than heroin. So if somebody takes a dose of heroin and they're used to it and they know that that dose is like what they want to achieve to make them feel better, but if it's that drug has been spiked with fentanyl, and they don't know it, and they take the same dose, if you will, that they're used to, they can overdose, and it's likely that they will. So that's a huge, huge problem. The other big problem, of course, with drugs like this is that when you stop taking them, you go through withdrawal. And withdrawal, the thing is, it's terrible. It's horrible. People feel horrible, right? So there can be all kinds of... So these drugs that like depress the nervous system, and they suppress pain. And so when you take these drugs away, the withdrawal is in the opposite direction. And so the people can feel more agitated, even than they were beforehand. They don't come back to where they started, right? They overshoot. So they're really agitated. There's a liability for seizures because the brain is really overactive. There's a phenomenon called hyperalgesia. So analgesia is like the suppression of pain. Hyperalgesia is like things that are usually not painful become painful because, so when you're in withdrawal, that happens. So people take the drug to prevent the withdrawal. It's understandable, right? How they just get, like, even if they want to stop, the withdrawal can be agonizing enough that it's hard to stop.